What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we're going over Burn After Reading. Burn After Reading, released in 2008, written and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen, a disc containing mysterious information from a CIA agent ends up in the hands of two unscrupulous and daft gym employees who attempt to sell it. Don't forget to stay to the end to see where Burn After Reading ranks in its year, decade, and in all time. But for now, let's get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. The first essential aspect is plot. So the plot of this movie is really confusing, and I didn't find out till the end that it's kind of on purpose. I'm still not 100% sure about that. It might not be on purpose. I don't know. It just seemed that way. But either way, there was three massive plot points happening that didn't seem to connect in any way until the end. It made sense. It started connecting, and throughout the movie, it made some slight connections here and there. But I just feel like it was way too messy. It was very confusing. I didn't really know what was going on some of the times. And the other times I was like, oh, okay, I guess I get it. But not even 100%. It was very messy. They definitely could have kept it in that messy-esque way, like if they planned to do that, without actually it seeming so confusing and messy. They could have cleaned it up a lot and still had that messy feel, I guess. I don't really know. But I feel like it missed. It really missed. I think it could have been good if they did it correctly, but I don't think they really did. The second essential aspect is attraction. So as I was kind of going over in plot, it being entertaining, kinda, I guess. It had its moments. I was really too focused on how confusing it was throughout most of the movie. The end I actually really enjoyed, and it was one of the only times during the movie that I actually laughed, because the J.K. Simmons character said,
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't fucking know either. I guess we learned not to do it again.
Yes, sir.
I'm fucked if I know what we did.
Yes, sir. It's hard to say.
Jesus fucking Christ.
and yeah, he was correct. That was extremely confusing. So, I mean, if that's what they planned for, okay. If not, again, another miss. The third essential aspect is theme. I don't really think there's a theme to this movie. Let's just move on. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. Did the conversations feel real? Yes. I mean, to an extent. It didn't really bother me. It didn't pull me out, but it also didn't really pull me in. George Clooney did do a really good job with his dialogue, kind of acting really erratically, really freaking out. That was very convincing. That definitely, it felt overdone a little bit in some scenes, but for the most part, that sounded great. And same with J.K. Simmons. Even though you barely see him in the movie, his dialogue was incredible. I honestly feel like he was one of the best parts. And Brad Pitt also did do a good job, acting more foolish and dumb than he normally is, obviously, but in his character, he did a good job portraying those kind of lines. So I think overall the dialogue was kind of but there was some exceptions. The fifth essential aspect is acting. So again, just like in the dialogue, the acting was okay. It really didn't pull me out of the movie, but it also didn't pull me in. But the three exceptions that I went over in dialogue apply to this as well. George Clooney, who played Harry, he did a really good job acting paranoid throughout the entire movie. That was kind of his whole character. He made me really convinced that he was paranoid through his dialogue and his acting, his movements, and his character. I wouldn't say it has more detail than the others, but it had more to pay attention to. So when I actually did pay attention to that character, I thought it was kind of cool, the things that I found out. Brad Pitt, who played Chad, he wasn't in it for too much of the movie, but he was kind of one of the main characters still. And he was kind of just this erratic young gym trainer. And I feel like he did a good job portraying the character as it was. Definitely better than some of the other characters. But, I mean, all he had to really do was act dumb and kind of crazy sometimes. So it wasn't hard to do, but Brad Pitt being a really good actor, he made it seem easy, I guess. And even though he wasn't a big part of the movie, J.K. Simmons, I thought he did awesome. He was the superior at the CIA, and he had short lines, he had short scenes, but honestly, the scenes were funny, and I thought it definitely pulled me away from the confusing plot and had me just enjoy a few scenes. So thank you, J.K. Simmons, for actually being funny in this movie and not confusing me even more than I already was. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. I mean, confusion is an emotion, right? Kinda? I don't know, but confusion is definitely the main emotion of this movie that I felt. And I didn't really feel anything else for any of the characters. I was attached to some of them, but not to the point where if anything happened, I would really feel much. So it was okay. I really don't think it's anything special cinematography-wise, so let's just go to the next one. The seventh essential aspect is editing. So Burn After Reading is an hour and 36 minutes long. I thought that was fine. I feel like they knew that their plot was kind of confusing, so they wanted to keep it short and sweet, which they did with that hour and a half-ish long movie. So I'm glad you didn't push and really tried to make that plot even longer, because I feel like you would have lost me if it was any longer. I feel like the plot was confusing enough where I would have started to maybe understand stuff at the end, but if it was like a 2 hour long movie, you would have lost me halfway through. I would not know what's going on. I would just be begging for the end. So at least the pacing wasn't that terrible. They knew how to get from point A to point B well in a almost perfect way, but the editing's fine. Nothing special, but not a catastrophe. Holy crap. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. Was there a soundtrack in this movie? I honestly don't even know. And I'm going to say this one more time. The confusing plot, that's the one thing I focused on. I didn't even know if there was music in the background. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So the directors of this movie were Ethan and Joel Cohen, and it was their job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And I think it's hard to say. If you understood the plot better than I did, it might actually be a really good movie. I feel like the concept that it had was more interesting. And definitely, if it was done better, would have been a great movie. I feel like it really missed. And based off of the previous movies they've done, I don't know why it missed, because I feel like they had some pretty good movies. I know I heard of a few of them. And those movies were Blood Sample, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, The Hudsucker Proxy, Fargo, The Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Intolerable Cruelty, The Lady Killers, and No Country for Old Men. And Joel actually has solo directed a movie, and that is The Man Who Wasn't There. So I haven't heard of a lot of the movies other than The Big Lebowski and No Country for Old Men, and if I'm not wrong, those are some pretty good movies. So I don't know how they really went from that to a confusing plot like this. It was still a good movie. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that the confusing part didn't get cleared up till the end, and it made watching it for the first time kind of just okay. But still, I feel like they shouldn't have taken such a big leap from a pretty good movie to a confusing plot. I feel like I don't know what happened there. And the 10th essential aspect is time. So as of the recording of this video, this movie is 16 years old. And I feel like I've heard about this movie. Other people have heard about this movie. I feel like it still stands the test of time to a point. But I honestly don't know why people are so crazy about this movie. It's very just okay. It's nothing crazy. If the plot wasn't as confusing, it would be definitely much better. But as it stands right now, I don't think it stands the test of time. I don't think it should. Now, onto the reviews. So the reviews for this movie were way higher than I thought. Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 78%. Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it a 65%. And IMDb gave it a 70%. Now, me personally, I don't think anywhere in the 70s fits at all, so let's get those out of there. And 65, I feel like is okay. It definitely is slightly above the midpoint. I feel like it could even push lower, but I don't know. This movie, I feel like I wouldn't really recommend this movie to people. And if I did, I would tell them about the confusing plot first, and I would explain that it connects, because that's the only way you can really enjoy this movie watching it. So I feel like if you have that previous knowledge about this movie, you'll enjoy it a lot more. But going in with knowing nothing about it, it's not going to be the easiest watch. And finally, the rankings. So these are going to be some very similar rankings, and you'll see why in a sec. Where will Burn After Reading rank in its year, decade, and in all time? Let's find out. Starting in 2008, it's going to rank second, right below The Happening. I feel like The Happening just has a better concept, and everything else is really the same. It's not confusing, but the concept and the acting is basically the same thing as Burn After Reading. I think both concepts are pretty interesting. I just feel like that movie is way less confusing and definitely better of a rewatch. So I'll definitely put The Happening above Burn After Reading. And now in the 2000s, it's actually going to be fifth, but also below The Happening and above 1408. Now, that was The Happening, obvious, I already talked about it, but above 1408 was very hard for me. I feel like those are very, very similar, not concept and movie-wise, but ranking-wise. I was switching between them constantly because 1408 was still such an interesting movie. It was a fun watch. The beginning wasn't anything special. The right in the middle, but the ending really made it all worthwhile. And that's the same thing with Burn After Reading. I feel like the whole movie was okay, kind of funny, kind of interesting. Some characters more interesting than others, but the ending made it way better. So that's why they're kind of similar. I just decided Burn After Reading is just that slightly better ending, even though 1408's ending was awesome. And in all time, it's also going to be similar. It's going to be 23rd below The Happening and above 1408. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. I already told you why it's in between those two, so I'll save you guys all the headache. That's all I have for Burn After Reading. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace out.